Hi, I'm 28. I have one kid. I'm not going to tell you his age, he's small. And this commenter asked me an interesting question. I had to think about it for a minute. Um, the person mentioned that I often talk about the inconveniences or the extra work that comes with raising a child, and that I love my son, but that I constantly sort of mention small things, and that might be true. But I want to say, first and foremost, as somebody who always wanted to be a mom, who enjoys being a mom, who likes being a mom, who chose it voluntarily, that I think the problem is never the kids. The problem is always the world around us. The problem is not that my child is difficult or that motherhood is exhausting or that motherhood is difficult, because motherhood is when you want it, when you like it, and when you decide for it consciously. Not when it's imposed on you, because then it's torture, but when it's something that you actually want. It is not exhausting by itself. Motherhood is actually pretty, it is joyful, it is enriching your life. I like every second of it. I think it's one of the most beautiful things. It changed my life for the better. I love my kid. I adore it. I wish that the conditions were so that I could have 5 kids, 10 kids, 12 kids, whatever. I would have like a whole school class of them, I adore them. But then there's the rest. There's the fact that, for example, it didn't work out with his father. There's the fact that I have no network with me that does this. I don't have a village. It's the fact that I live alone on a super small apartment, that I'm not making money, and that I'm still finishing my study course. I don't have the time, I don't have the money and the finances to have more than one kid, and even one is difficult enough. It is exhausting not to be cared for as much as you would like to by the doctors and the midwives. It is exhausting to not be understood by most people. It is exhausting that society demands from you to have as much children as possible, but they are taking away the funding, they are taking away the money, they are making childcare very expensive. It's very expensive to get a daycare. It's very expensive to feed a kid. Of course, we get money from the government, but there's like a singularity on the planet. Not many governments do that, and those who do, the money is sometimes too little, and in other countries it would be even harder to deal with. It's exhausting that you have to buy so many things and that they are horribly overpriced. It's exhausting that you have to sacrifice so much of yourself as a person, your time, your resources, and anything. It's exhausting that there are no apartments for bigger families. There are almost no houses. If I wanted to live in this city forever, I would probably never own a house, because I would have had to start saving probably 10 years ago. Well, I could have bought a house 10 years ago with how cheap they were then, but not now. Stuff like that. Very bad living conditions, very bad financial conditions, usually the lack of a village. The fact that our generation, like the parents' generation, like our parents, they are telling us all the time how to raise children, and they have forgotten how to, and they don't know how to, and they did it 30 years ago, so the rules were completely different, in the 80s and 90s. It's the fact that that you can't even put modern television on for them or something. It's the fact that many books today and many movies today are like AI generated or animated too quickly, or that the music is trash, that the quality of children's product is worse. It's the fact that it's sometimes so inaccessible, all of this stuff, Like sports classes for children are always in the morning, but then it's daycare, It's the fact that I'm the only one in my entire social circle, well, not anymore, we are 2 now, who have kids, but it's like super... The lack of a village, It's the fact that everybody expects a lot from you, and everybody promises a lot of things to you, and everybody says it's gonna be fine, and everybody has advice, but nobody is there with you when it's actually difficult. That's what I don't like, If I had a little bit more money and a house, and if I had a bit of more freedom during the day, and if I had, I don't know, better medical care, or people who actually knew how to properly heal a woman's body, or how to help me explain how a woman's body heals after birth, stuff like that. Man, I would have 25 children. Motherhood is not the issue. Motherhood is not the issue. It is a resource issue. It's a social issue, It's a family issue. It's a partnership issue. It's a guy you had kids with issue, It's the stark loneliness and everything that comes with it, I basically have nobody to really share my feelings about it with anybody. I have like a friend who is pregnant. My mom had kids 30 years ago, And my ex-partner doesn't really talk about feelings. Who else am I going to talk to, you know? And that is really awful. I have a mom club, but everybody is 10 years older than I am. So yeah, the inconveniences with having a kid are stuff like you have to spend extra money on everything so that your kid can live like a basic, decent life, you know? Stuff like that. You have to do an enormous, gigantic, organizational amount of stuff just to, you know, and all of that during pregnancy in the early stages where you are busy and you should heal, you know, where you should have like a community of women around you. That doesn't exist anymore. What you do have is lots of friends talking about feminism and equality and motherhood and whatever, but then they never call back and go have a tea with you, you know? Like the afternoons, I'm there alone, going to the playground with him alone. And then I take him to bed alone. And I take him to daycare alone. And I'm with him alone. I do this alone. And that's the thing. And it was such an isolating experience. And it was such an exhausting experience. And I had such a burnout that I'm not doing this again. But the kid that I have, I will try to love with as much force as I have.